Welcome back to Under Review. A lot has happened since we've last talked to you. I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving. I'm home on Thanksgiving break, so I thought no better guest to have than my very first basketball coach and my father, Kevin Mahn. We're going to get into what happened in that NC State game and what the Phil Knight Legacy Tournament may present for the women's team. But until then, I'm Bri Mahn.
And I'm Kevin Mahn. Let's get into it.
Coming off that huge Texas win, the women didn't have a lot of time to rest as they had to face another top 10 opponent, NC State being number 10. Obviously a really amped up game because of how the game went last year, that double overtime, sending them into the Final Four. Even before the game, what do you think facing another top team?
A little bit of a scare before that game with CD passing out right after the national anthem, but boy did the Huskies get off to a good start. AZ was hitting from everywhere. Aubrey Griffin, tremendous on defense, a lot of steals, a lot of energy. Of course, Aaliyah driving to the basket, getting a lot of rebounds. What a fantastic start for the Huskies in a very balanced attack.
I think it was a really dominant effort to show that they can beat two top teams, but also do it in a way where there was no really chance of the other team winning. Was a little scary though that first half, only 3 scorers, Aaliyah, Aubrey, AZ, and then Lou jumps in the fourth, but it is concerning that there are only 4 to 5 scorers on the team. The starters ended up being the only people that did score, so what do you think about that?
Yeah, what I meant by a balanced attack is everyone seems to be developing their own role on the Huskies this year. They're playing a zone trap press defense, very similar to what the Villanova men's team played a few years back, and fantastic energy that's in that press. We have Aubrey jumping, tremendously athletic, getting a lot of steals, and of course Nika Mule. Nika Mule, or as we like to refer to her as Nika Fuel, tremendous energy, tremendous sparks, gets a lot of steals, and always looking to feed to her teammates. Aaliyah getting the rebounds, and of course AZ hitting the shots from the outside, and as you correctly point out, I think Lou's going to become that other scorer that they need. Very balanced in terms of their approach to the game, and they all have different roles, but they do need some more balanced scoring, and hopefully Lou can pick up that role.
I definitely agree. I think that even just those 5 starters being the only scorers, Nika only had maybe around 3 points, but I don't think that girl needs to score at all. She brings enough to the team, breaking the program's assist record.
Who had an assist record? I think it was Paige Beckers.
I don't think you should ever remove her out of the starting lineup. I think she just brings something that you really can't replace, but I do want to see more from Caroline and more from off the bench, but I do like the starting 5 as it is. I want Dorka to come back. She's not playing in that Phil Knight Legacy Tournament, but I love what Aubrey Griffin showed.
Absolutely. Aubrey, tremendously athletic, can hit the outside shot, drives well to the basket, but I love her at the point of that zone trapping press defense. She also has a tremendous amount of energy in the half-court defense as well. Nika Mule, as great of a player as Paige Beckers is, and she is a generational talent, as great of a shooter as AZ Fudd is, quickest release I've ever seen. If I was starting a team, Bri Mahn, I would start with Nika and build around her. She doesn't have off games. She always brings the energy. She's always lifting up her teammates, and boy, can she distribute the basketball.
I completely agree. What do you think so far? AZ Fudd, 32 points. She kind of didn't show that much her freshman year. She was great, but how do you think her sophomore year is going so far?
It's interesting. One of the comments that I heard her say that she was trying to be perfect in her freshman year. Now she feels a little bit more relaxed. She understands the offense. She understands the expectations of her. And she also is showing up on the defensive end as well. What's going to happen in the games ahead, those teams are going to focus on her. They know they have to shut her down. And I think you're going to see the defense coming out and defending her more on the perimeter. What does that mean? Well, Lou's going to have to start driving the ball. Aaliyah's going to have to look for those backdoor cuts. And of course, some of the other players, you mentioned Caroline Ducharme, another great outside shooter, is going to have to start stepping up and hitting outside shots as well. So now we're going to get to really see how balanced of an offense they are, because they know that they're a very balanced team overall.
I completely agree. I think her confidence has just skyrocketed this year, which changes everything. She could shoot before, but she was just kind of afraid to. But she literally, as they've said, she shoots even when she's not open. So even if they try to guard her, it might be a tricky effort for them. UConn moved up to number 3 in the Monday poll. We saw that Stanford-South Carolina game. Definitely was a little crazy, but what do you think this presents? Them already beating 2 top 10 teams who have fallen since, but what do you think the competition is now looking forward to the season? There
is so much parity now in women's basketball, and as we've seen in men's basketball with the new transfer portal, the ability for players to move from team to team, play a 5th year in their COVID year, I think it brings a lot of teams onto the radar that weren't necessarily on the radar before. But UConn is UConn. Tremendous talent, tremendous coaching, and they all understand their role. So I wouldn't count out UConn through the balance of this year. Clearly, their most formidable foes are going to be the traditional foes that we anticipate. The Stanfords, the South Carolinas, the Notre Dame. We know that game is coming up as well, and perhaps even Iowa with Caitlin Clark. But I really like the way that this UConn team is starting to mesh together. Once Dorka comes back, unfortunately Paige won't be back this year. Ice won't be back this year, but they have so much talent. They understand their roles. If they can develop other scorers to complement AZ, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I definitely agree. I'm feeling a lot more confident in the team this year just because they are doubted against. We started out at that number 6 position. We're already up to number 3. I don't mind being number 3 the whole year because it doesn't matter what you're ranked, just matters who wins the national championship. But I definitely think there is a lot of competition between that South Carolina, Stanford, UConn dynamic.
Without a doubt. Even in the Big East, we see Creighton looks tough this year. Villanova looks tough again this year. Seton Hall, you can't sleep on Seton Hall either. The Big East is becoming a lot more competitive than they were prior to UConn rejoining the conference. So parity across the country, but once again, I think UConn's going to rise to the top.
I completely agree. And then we're going into that Phil Knight Legacy Tournament. Starts tonight. They're playing Duke, and then also Iowa and Oregon State are in this tournament. What do you think is to come from that?
I think it's another great opportunity for UConn to develop some other scorers on the team. If they get the opportunity to play against Iowa, and if Caitlin Clark is healthy enough, you're going to see the battle between AZ Foot and Caitlin, who can shoot from farther away from the basket, who can drain more threes. But Duke is a tough team as well. Very balanced, very athletic, coming from the Atlantic Coast Conference. I think this is going to be a great opportunity for UConn to continue to develop what they do, how they do it before they travel to Notre Dame and before they move into Big East Conference play. So I'm really excited to see how they do.
I completely agree. I think that every single team, regardless of ranking, exposes a strength or weakness. So I think sometimes you see that they're playing an unranked team or one that's below 10, and then you're like, oh, this is going to be an easy blowout. Right. But even USF last year in that tournament really challenged them. So I think every game will keep them on their toes, and they've learned that from last year, losing to a couple opponents that they were not expecting to. So I think they'll learn from everything.
And Gino will not let them underestimate anybody. Even when they're up by a lot in a given game, or even if they're playing a lesser ranked team, he wants them working on certain things. He wants them executing. He wants them focused and dialed in. So when they get to March, they've seen everything and they're prepared and battle tested. So I don't anticipate Gino letting them rest on anybody. And I think those types of games gives them the opportunity to develop some other players that don't necessarily play as much. Whether it's Amari coming off the bench or Caroline getting more minutes, that gives them opportunity to really develop the full team because they don't have that deep of a bench in terms of numbers based upon the injuries to Paige and the injuries to Ice. So that's going to be important for UConn as the year wears on.
I think especially, as much as we don't want injury, it gives other people a chance to step up.
Yep.
Caroline Ducharme last year, we may have never seen how great she was if she didn't get that chance.
So true, and what a year she had.
And then the fact that Dorka had to sit out, it was kind of like Aubrey's game. She took over, and I don't know, would we have been able to see all these different people break out if it wasn't for the given opportunity?
Very true, and I hope we get to see more of Amari as the season does unfold. The longer it takes Dorka to come back, the more opportunity we're going to get to hopefully see Amari in that post role, in that high feeder role. But I really like what I did see from Aaliyah in that NC State game. Not only was she comfortable actually driving to the basket, but she also made some really nice passes on those backcourt door cuts. Reminds me of a lot of who we had last year at that role, and I thought we missed a lot more than we are right now. But if we play against bigger teams, we're going to need some more height down there for defending and for boxing out as well. And that comes from Amari, and that hopefully comes from Dorka when she comes back as well, in addition to the freshmen that we have. I think that's going to be pivotal for us. We can shoot. It seems like we can shoot, we can score, we can defend, but we also have to be able to rebound against some of those bigger, stronger, taller teams.
I think that's the one person I really want to see break out in this tournament is Ayanna Patterson.
Yes.
She is such a powerful force.
That's the freshman I was referring to.
Yes,
She's outstanding.
and she just needs to be more confident in herself because she could completely dominate the game. We've seen her do it in high school, and I think that once she gets her rhythm a little, we saw it with the freshmen last year, even Easy and Caroline didn't have their rhythm at this point. Once she gets it, it'll literally be unstoppable.
And you saw that during portions of that NC State, her boxing out, her diving on the ground for some loose balls, her getting in the scrum. I think she can be that missing ingredient that we need in that 4 and 5 role. May not be as tall as some of the other players, but certainly aggressive, certainly strong. And I think if she develops as well, this UConn team is going to be really nice and balanced in all those different roles that you need from a championship caliber team.
I completely agree. I think Coach Aram even said it. He was saying, AZ missed a couple shots. She missed a couple threes. She missed a couple layups. There's only a higher potential that she could even reach.
Right.
It's scary to see that as dominant as we are right now, there is so much we haven't even reached. This is just early season. So I think that's something other teams should be afraid of.
When AZ misses, I think the whole crowd gasps. We just assume it's going in every time it leaves her hands. Very similar to Steph Curry. So that's who I think of every time that I see AZ shoot the ball, that quick release. You know what's going in, and the fact that she doesn't get too low, she doesn't get too high, she plays defense, she plays within herself. She's a really dominant player, and I think she's certainly a Player of the Year candidate already as a sophomore.
Paige has said it herself, National Player of the Year.
Yep, and Paige was herself, so she certainly knows what it takes to be.
But definitely this Phil Knight Legacy Tournament will present a couple battles, but I'm excited to see what is ahead. They're playing Duke tonight. 6 p.m. Eastern time, and I just think this tournament will really challenge them, and they have a couple more non-conference battles that will challenge them before they get into that Big East play. But until then, I'm Bri Mahn.
And I'm Kevin Mahn. Thanks for having me on, Bri Mahn.
Anytime. Thanks for watching.
Go Huskies.